What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back with another video. Today, I'm going to be making a video that has been requested by many people, and it's something that I think the Toronto Maple Leafs and fans and the head office and literally everybody needs to start talking about even more, even though it seems like it's being talked about a lot, the backup goalie situation. Now, I need to get some things out of the way first. There's a lot of people who are calling for Dubas's head, and I need to explain something that happened a couple years ago that I think that people just don't really understand when it comes to how an NHL GM has to work and how logic works, because there's been a complete misunderstanding when it comes to Dubas and the fans and the backup goaltender situation. Now, let me explain to you guys this, and again, I'm not forcing this opinion on anybody. You're allowed to have your own opinion. Leave it down below, but this is something that just... Don't have a bias here for a second and just look at this logically, because I am going to look at both sides. Curtis Mcleaney. This is what a lot of people have been talking about and acting as if we traded away the best goalie of all time. Now, let me just say something. Mcleaney was a very good backup to Frederik Andersen, but he came out of nowhere. He was putting up like career best numbers in the Toronto Maple Leafs crease. Like, he was playing out of his mind. Like, better than anybody would have expected, and way better than he's ever played before, okay? So you take that, and then you look at, in the minors, you have Garrett Sparks, a guy who is one of the most NHL-ready prospects in the system at the time, and he literally just dominates the league. Like, his numbers every single year, he's dominating less than 2 goals per game on the season. Like, he literally was the AHL goaltender of the year. He won a championship and he dominated. Like, he looked amazing all year. Like, I'm sure all Leaf fans can agree, he looked pretty fantastic, and everybody was excited. I mean, he looked awesome, and everybody said, here we go. The Leafs have a very good young goaltender coming up and a solid backup option right now. So it's going to make for a tough decision, but you're just going to have to roll with it. So Kyle Dubas had a pretty tough decision to make. Well, you have a guy in Curtis Mcleaney who was playing out of his mind, getting older. Let's be honest here. He's in his 30s, and you're not, like, late 30s. What was he, like 34 or something? Well, that's not really late, but you know what I mean. He's 36 now, but you have to understand, like, a goaltender playing out of his mind for one season, and you're Kyle Dubas, you're probably going to take the young guy, the guy who just won the AHL Goalie of the Year. So you're like, this season's an outlier. He did really good. Let's try to put him on waivers and hope that nobody claims him thinking the same thing that we are, that it was an outlier and that he's not really going to be able to help their team, and, you know, we might be able to slide him into the minors, and if Sparks doesn't work, at least we can call Mcleaney back up, which is what they tried to do. If I was the GM in that, in that position, I would have done the same thing. You have a goalie that's young and just won AHL Goalie of the Year. You have to try him out. It does not make sense to keep a guy who's had one good season under his belt. Now, mind you, the other side of that is he did it in the NHL, but it's only one season. So you have to give a chance to the young guy. Well, of course, Mcleaney got claimed and everybody was ticked off. Garrett Sparks didn't work out for the Leafs. Michael Hutchinson actually did pretty good in relief at the end of the season. Like, last year he did pretty well, but this year he's been an absolute disaster. Let's be honest here. He hasn't worked out. They tried Kaskisuo out for one game. I wish they would have given him at least one more, but Hutchinson came up and he just hasn't been good. Through 7 games played, he's averaging a 4.55 goals against every game and he has an .876 save percentage. Now, just to be fair, if we're looking at Curtis Mcleaney this year, he's with Tampa right now. He's also played in 7 games, and he has a 3.42 goals against average and a .908 save percentage. Now, slightly better numbers, but, I mean, that's not what the Leafs want either. So Mcleaney is kind of proving a little bit that his last couple seasons were outliers, and the luck might be running out, and the skill level might be running out. Now, this is no disrespect to Mcleaney. I loved the guy. He did really good. I hope him and Hutchinson and all these goalies turn it around. It's better when there's more talent and, more good goaltenders in the league. But right now, Mcleaney nor Hutchinson would have been good options for the Leafs. They both are not having good seasons, so please stop bringing up the Mcleaney stuff because it does not make sense. Mcleaney's not having a good year either. So let's look at some trade options. Now, I'm not saying that a lot of these guys are sure like this is going to work, but you have to be creative with some of these trades. So Pittsburgh, Casey DeSmith. Right now he is with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins in the AHL. He's played 15 games. He has a 2.41 goals against average and a 922 save percentage. Last year for the Penguins, he had a 275 goals against and a 916 save percentage in 36 games played. So he looks pretty good. The year before that with Pittsburgh, 14 games played, 2.40 goals against and a 921 save percentage. So pretty good numbers. And the Pittsburgh Penguins will probably want a decent amount for him. And I think that this works for both goaltenders because their other goalie that they might be interested in trading is Tristan Jerry. Now, Casey DeSmith's cap hit right now is $1.25 million. And I believe that that's for the next couple years. So the Leafs would have to move out a little bit of salary for that trade to work. But in terms of Tristan Jerry, his cap hit is $675,000, but he came up and took the backup goaltender position from DeSmith, so he might cost the Leafs a little bit more in terms of what they have to give up. He's played 9 games, 2.22 goals against averaging a 929 save percentage, so really good numbers. His former stints in the NHL weren't as great, but he's put up pretty serviceable numbers in the NHL, but this season he looks pretty damn good. Now, with DeSmith, I feel like you wouldn't have to give up as much, but I think Tristan Jarry is the way to go. I think that Pittsburgh would be happy with DeSmith as their backup goaltender. I've seen conflicting reports, though, of what the Leafs would have to give up, and I think, if I'm being honest, I would find a happy medium. The Pittsburgh Penguins clearly want to get better immediately, but the Leafs can't afford to give up a top 6 forward, which is what some people are saying it would take to give up to get a guy like Tristan Jarry. Now, I just don't understand how that makes a lot of sense. I don't think that he's worth that much for a backup goaltender to give up a guy from the Leafs roster that is, potentially going to score 15 to 20 goals on the year and has a pretty good cap hit. Like if we're talking like a Janssen or Kapanen, I don't think that I would trade them for a backup goaltender. I figure that if the Leafs are going to make a trade like this, you're going to have to give up something good. Like, I'm talking like a good as a prospect as like a Jeremy Bracco. Like, the Leafs have to give something up, but I just don't believe that it has to be a top 6 forward. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't think that it will take like a top-of-the-line prospect, but Jeremy Bracco would give the Penguins an option to bring up as a guy who's a power play specialist and a guy that can pass the puck really well. He's a bit of a defensive liability, but he puts up a ton of points. And I don't think that it would just be Bracco. You'd probably have to throw in a decently high pick in there, like a 3rd-round pick. But I don't see this notion of giving up a top 6 forward for a backup goaltender. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And if that's what the price is, then you move on from that trade. So I don't know if it takes that much, but I've also seen people saying it would only take like a bottom 6 forward, and like a late pick. But you can't just give up like a 4th-line guy. It has to be somebody who has potential and then a pick that actually will do you some good. A guy like Bracco, I don't think would be an unfair guy to put as a centerpiece in a deal, especially for a backup goaltender. That might be overpaying a little bit, to be honest with you. But I've also seen some people reporting that, what about Ryan Miller? Well, first of all, apparently he's happy playing where he is in terms of his location. He doesn't want to move too far away from Anaheim. But to start the year, this is where I'm kind of getting confused. People are very mad, in terms of Hutchinson and, we need a better backup. And then you look at Ryan Miller, and his numbers aren't that great either. He's got a 3.14 goals against average and an 899 save percentage. Now, a .899 save percentage. Those aren't great numbers either. And Comrie would have been a good option, but he just got traded to Detroit, I believe. So the Leafs are kind of running out of certain options. There are still goalies out there, but I'm just talking about some of the goalies that have been, available in the eyes of what people are saying. So to just recap this, the best options are the Pittsburgh's goaltending pool because they have DeSmith and Jarry, but Murray hasn't been playing all that hot. So it's like, do they really want to give up a goalie now, or what's going to happen there? I think that they still believe in Murray. Like, he can go on hot streaks. I mean, the guy has 2 cups already, and he looks still like a starting goaltender, but he has those moments. I think that Hutchinson's time is pretty much done. Mcleaney, we need to stop talking about it because Mcleaney has fallen off a little bit and he hasn't had good numbers this season. Miller, it just doesn't make sense, and also you have to kind of make the money work as well. I think if you're looking at the best option, it's Tristan Jerry, but be prepared to give up a little bit more than you want to, but I don't believe it's a top 6 forward. So those are just my opinions on what could happen. I don't fully believe that this, these are the only goalies they're looking at. I mean, Joseph Woll hasn't had the best start with the Marlies. He's looked good in some games, but I also don't believe that the Leafs want to rush him in. He's only 21, and they want to try to, hopefully turn him into a starting goaltender in the NHL and work on him. They don't want to throw him in like Carter Hart. So we'll have to see what happens. Leave some options down below. I want to know what you guys think about this. I don't think that the Leafs are in a lot of trouble. Keep in mind, towards the NHL trade deadline, prorated cap hits, stuff like that, they'll be able to work on moving in and out in terms of salary. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you're new, make sure to subscribe, leave your suggestions down below, and I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.